The impact of the loss of temporary protective status in Indiana, a call to subpoena voters will not move forward, and a mass deportation rally comes to Fishers. From the television studios at WFYI Public Media, it's Indiana Week in Review for the week ending July 31st, 2026.
Indiana Week in Review is produced by WFYI in association with Indiana Public Broadcasting Stations. Additional support is provided by Par Ritchie.
About 7,000 Haitians in Indiana lost their ability to legally work and live in the U.S. this week. Samantha Horton reports immigrant advocates say the change will negatively impact the state's workforce and economy.
Haitians contribute about $30 million annually in state and local taxes, according to advocacy group FWD. That economic impact is expected to drop as thousands lose their temporary protection status, or TPS. A ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court in June allowed the Trump administration to terminate TPS for Haitians and Syrians. Immigrant Welcome Center CEO Gurinder Kaur says Haitians work in agriculture, healthcare, and hospitality.
The deliveries, the comforts that we are used to, the care that is being provided as various professional affiliations and the work that they do is going to be impacted.
Kaur says the effects on the workforce will be clearer in the coming months.
Will Indiana feel the impact of the loss of immigrant workers? It's the first question for our Indiana Week in Review panel. Democrat Ann DeLaney. Republican Mike O'Brien. John Schwantes, host of Indiana Lawmakers, and Niki Kelly, editor-in-chief at Indiana Capital Chronicle. I'm Jill Sheridan, managing editor at WFYI. So, Ann, what type of impact do you think this move is going to have in Indiana?
Oh, it's going to have an impact. I mean, these are not illegal immigrants. I mean, these are people who are here legally, working, paying taxes, doing jobs that many Americans don't want to do. And it's certainly going to have an impact on the economy. And from a humanitarian perspective, it's even worse. We took them under these circumstances because they were living in hellholes. And they're going back to hellholes if they survive. And it is just so reprehensible. I mean, the Christian nationalist Republicans say they're Christian. They love each other, but they hate anybody else who looks different. And these people look different. They worship, in some cases, different gods, speak different languages, and have a different skin color. And so they want them out of the country. These are contributing citizens who are paying taxes and doing jobs and helping people. Okay, I mean, there are a lot of them in the healthcare industry, which is always understaffed. And people are going to be at a loss for what to do to protect their loved ones in this circumstance. But the Christian nationalist Republicans don't seem to give a darn. So let them go, even though they're not illegal immigrants.
The logistics of this, Mike, might be difficult and very confusing to people, in Indiana that now find themselves in a situation where they don't know what to do. So what type of advice should we give?
This is a symptom of a much bigger problem. That is, we do not have an immigration plan in this country that looks like anybody designed it on purpose. We have these fits and starts of targeting a population, getting the courts to get on board and try to deport them. But there's no thoughtfulness to that. It's just whatever you can get away with. And so ultimately, we haven't even tried to have an immigration policy in this country that is short of lock down the border and deport all the illegals in 21 years, since George W. Bush had one. And Republicans were on board with that, and then we lost in 2008 and took the hard line on illegals without ever recognizing there's a practical problem with that. And the kind of government you'd have to build, the size of the government that you would have to build in order to accomplish that goal is entirely anti-conservative. It's so invasive and intrusive into private life, with no real consideration of what the real world impact is going to be. And so in this situation, and I actually on this temporary status, the problem with that is that these aren't asylum seekers. They don't have green cards. They're on a path to citizenship. They're in this limbo, and now the rug's kind of gotten pulled out from under them. But it was never a program that was designed to allow you to be here permanently. And so that, from a policy standpoint, I don't actually look at that immigration status and go, No, that's right. I mean, they actually did make the right call on, but these people needed to be reclassified or have some pathway to another, to a green card or asylum. They're contributing, they're paying taxes, they're contributing to the economy, they're members of the community, and so there's going to be a real human. You're right. There's going to be a real human impact to that. But it's a failing, like all the way around on the system itself.
The system is broken, but you did some reporting out of Logansport, which has a very high number of Haitian immigrants. Some of them have successfully become citizens and been able to navigate the system, but others are going to find themselves in a very difficult situation. And a community like that could be at real risk.
Yeah, I mean, they've started their own businesses. They work in a lot of the manufacturing facilities. Some of them have applied for asylum, but they're kind of stuck in this holding pattern because they weren't sure what was happening with TPS. So, they can try the asylum route, but that's years more of waiting. And so, yeah, I mean, look, I know that it's a very controversial thing, but in the meantime, businesses and even the Indiana Chamber of Commerce told us, they're very concerned. They're watching how this is going to work out because there are communities in which this is the only reason they have these jobs filled. And so someone will have to do those jobs.
Also Syrians were on this list, and Indiana has a history with Syrian refugees as well. Not nearly as many people from Syria here in the state. But again, the message that this sends.
Well, I think we're conflating a lot of things under the broad heading immigration, the I word, and everyone has touched on it thus far during this discussion. These people are not illegals. It's often, Mike, I agree with what you're saying, but you use the term illegals 3 times in your conversation. I was taking mental note, which is right for a lot of people, but these are not illegals, right? As Ann pointed out, they came here legally, and to this point, they've been here in some cases 16 years legally, and I like to think, after 16 years, you tend to put down roots. The other thing, so that's one distinction. I mean, we sort of lump everybody together when, in fact, the policy of this White House was to talk about criminals, convicted criminals who are here illegally, and then all of a sudden that was broadened. Now it's essentially broadened again for the sake of this shorthand for the discussion. It is tough and it runs the risk, it seems to me, of creating not necessarily division, but some disagreement within even the Republican Party. You see, Indiana certainly has a lot of, you mentioned Logansport has a large population. Ohio probably has the largest concentration in the country, including right around Springfield, which is where the cats were all, I don't know if the cat population has recovered to this date yet, but that was identified by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance as sort of this cauldron of crazy behavior and conduct. Never mind that local officials say this is the best thing that ever happened to us. Never mind that Mike DeWine, who is a Republican, as U.S. Senator, now governor, he's run for multiple offices, always as a Republican. He says, this is crazy. This policy that the White House has makes no sense. It's going to hurt us economically. It is going to hurt the healthcare industry. It is going to hurt logistics. A lot of these in a disproportionate fashion. I mean, there are a lot of people, sectors of the economy that immigrants are in, but those tend to be, in fact, in meat packing. These are in many cases reasons why you have these concentrations in Logansport, in Springfield, Ohio. So it's not monolithic, the Republican stance on this. And I think, well, we've seen that from our Republican representative here today.
Use me as an example.
There are there are nuances. I'll put you in the Mike DeWine camp. People who say let's not just
That's a good camp.
Let's not just be
very small camp.
The Indiana Recount Commission shot down an effort to subpoena voters and question them about crossing over during the Republican primary in May. As Ben Thorpe reports, a candidate backed by President Donald Trump has argued that Democratic voters illegally pulled Republican ballots in order to keep her from winning.
The race in Senate District 23 has come down to just 3 votes, with incumbent Spencer Deary narrowly beating out Trump-backed Paula Copenhaver. Copenhaver's campaign has disputed hundreds of ballots and called for some voters to be subpoenaed, pointing to social media posts indicating they normally voted for Democrats. Secretary of State Diego Morales led the vote against subpoenaing voters.
This is the right thing to do, to make sure that we reject the motion to subpoena any voters.
Morales called for the state to close its primaries to resolve the issue. The commission will review the disputed ballots and make a final determination in August.
So, Mike, did the commission make the right call here?
I think they did. Yeah. Look, I mean, we attest our party at the primary. That's our system. And we've never gone back. And there have been high-profile examples of like open campaigns to try to talk voters into crossing over.
None of which have ever worked.
It never works. And 2008 was the biggest example when Rush Limbaugh ran a campaign for Republican voters to cross over in the Democrat primary because it came down to Indiana for president, because this country was never going to elect Barack Obama. Right? So that's the highest profile example of the plan not working.
Exactly.
But we've never been that punitive in these laws. I think there's been a presumption that voters have the right to, one, to privacy, and two, to change their mind. You know, and I don't vote all Republican in Republican general elections. I don't vote Democrat, but sometimes I undervote for people that I know personally and don't want to support. But no, I think the commission got it right. And I think that would have set a terrible precedent. And it would have put another chilling effect on voting, too. If people thought you were going to get
subpoenaed.
Right.
I pulled the Democrat ballot last time. I want to pull a Republican one this time for any reason. Maybe I support that candidate more. Maybe I want to participate in the race for governor. And so I've changed my mind, and now in the back of my head, I'm like, well, I'm going to get hauled in front of a judge to explain myself, or my private vote is going to now become public on what I did. And we just can't go down that road. But I will say, Ted Nolte, the attorney on that side of it, it was the best argument he had. I mean, there's really very few options to go back into a recount and start, and there should be very few opportunities to go kill ballots that have already been cast.
Yeah, you know, and this all ending though in Diego saying that closed primaries is the way that the state should move forward.
There's a mechanism now if somebody wants to challenge when you ask for a Republican vote at the primary level. There's a mechanism for challenging it now. So it's already there. It didn't happen in this case. And the idea that you could subpoena people to come in and say how you intend to vote in the fall is absolutely unconstitutional. So it's clearly the right decision. It's the only decision. Chilling effect, oh my. You know, the other thing is she's taken a page out of Trump's book, okay? She lost, okay? More people voted in favor of her opponent than her. Okay, that's the way it is. But that can't be. There has to be some nefarious plot out there somewhere that undermined her, because obviously she was anointed to that position and she didn't get it. Can you imagine? The voters said no. And that's what she should recognize.
It is remarkable. 3 votes, and there still will be a counting of the votes.
In McCluskey's race was what, 10?
10
so
votes.
Many years ago, and it went on for months.
Every vote
They
counts.
called it the Bloody Eighth.
They called it the Bloody Eighth. They did for years.
It's incredibly close. And so you do, I mean, I'm not surprised that somebody who is on the losing end of an election wants to exhaust every, run down every possible avenue of every recourse. But Ann's point is a good one. She lost, and I agree with everybody here. Going and having a subpoena to depose or haul voters in front of a judge to offer their testimony about why they saw fit to change parties. People do change their minds.
Yeah.
I think that's a sign of wisdom, is whether you're changing, on a given issue or party affiliation or candidate. We look at Donald Trump, who, if I'm not mistaken, has voted in more Democratic primaries in his lifetime before he was elected to 2016 than he was. Lindsey Graham, may he rest in peace, became one of the biggest backers, certainly of the president and the U.S. Senate. But go back to 2016, he was the leading voice of the never Trump. Talked about J.D. Vance was, for that matter, too.
Yeah.
So people. You don't have to look very far to find evidence that people change their opinions about individual candidates, about party platforms, and about the issues that those platforms address.
And that's between them and their own conscience.
I would agree.
Not a question for a
panel to
discuss.
We do have secret ballots for a reason.
This is all fallout from the redistricting action that took place late last year. I mean, it is incredible to think about everything that's happened. Some news today as well, Senate President Pro Tem.
Before I get to that, I just do want to remind people the recount's not over.
Yes.
They're still challenging about 300
They just will not
ballots. So
depose
we'll have to
voters.
see how that goes. And there were 2 that were counted kind of late, one in Tippecanoe and one in Park. So we don't know for sure how that is. But yeah, the big news is that Senate President Pro Tem Rod Bray came out today and said he will not seek that leadership post again. He specifically said, look, I don't want to put people in harm's way. Like now they're being told we're going to retaliate against you if you support him in a leadership vote. He doesn't want to put his colleagues in that position, and so that's why he said he's not going to seek the leadership role.
And a call from the White House.
Christian nationalists control the Republican Party in Indiana.
I mean,
Period.
Trump
Well, I think it's
had some
more
strong
Bray-
words
I think that's
for
more
him.
to Bray's legacy, and this is a multi-generational, elected official. His father, his grandfather. He's an institutionalist. First of all, he very much respects the institution and protecting that, and that's what I feel was certainly one of the pillars of what he was doing when he opposed redistricting last year. So it's kind of the last act of who Rod Bray is as a person,
Well,
a good citizen, an ethical leader, and made the right call to protect the caucus.
And somebody who,
ultimately.
as you say, cares about the institution. And that's not what's going to happen from here on out. And that's why I say the Christian nationalists and the ideologues are going to control it all. And it's to his credit, I think, that he stepped down. It's to the shame of the Republican Party that he had to do that.
And we will probably see, with closed primaries, the Republican Party has said, be a major topic as we're moving into the next session.
I'll echo those that say, I hate to see Rod Bray go. He, his family, I can't think of many Indiana families that have the sterling record of public service that he and father and grandfather did at both the state level and the federal level.
Yeah.
And in the case of his grandfather. So it's sad from that standpoint. I mean, I understand.
He'll still be in the Senate.
He'll still be in the Senate, and I
Primary him, too.
I understand the notion of wanting to not put people in harm's way, but it does create a bit of, even if the intentions are good, it sort of takes people who are institutionalists to the sidelines, self-imposed trip to the sidelines, and creates that vacuum into which others could move.
That's right, and that's what has happened in both parties. Right? As they've acted more extreme, more people in that kind of middle 40 are like, get me out of here. I don't want to deal with these people. And but you see that has started in a big way, certainly in D.C. But now in Indiana, we were kind of a late adopter to that, infiltrating the institutions and affecting how they behave.
Well, but
we're seeing that
it's
divide.
carried ridiculously far. When you have Governor Braun and Attorney General Rokita saying that they can declare laws unconstitutional, I mean, they don't even have respect for the law, never mind for the institution. It's ridiculous.
It is quite a divide. And now it is time for viewer feedback. Every week we pose an unscientific online poll question. This week's question, should Indiana move to closed primaries in our elections? Vote yes or no. The last question posed to viewers, should the state pull more people off the child care voucher wait list? 52% saying yes and 48% saying no. If you would like to take part in the poll, go to WFYI.org/IWIR and look for the poll. A rally billed as the nation's first mass deportation rally is set for Fishers, Indiana this Saturday. Organizers say it's sold out and it's drawing a counter-protest. Eric Weddle has more.
The group Save Heritage Indiana is hosting the event. It's headlined by former U.S. Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino, who oversaw President Trump's mass deportation campaign before retiring in March. Bovino calls the rally an important first step.
There's a lot of opposition to that rally. It's the first mass deportation rally ever held in the United States. And hopefully everything goes off good there. But that is perhaps, everything starts with a spark.
Indiana's Republican Party supports the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration. This year, lawmakers passed a law requiring schools, local governments, police, and sheriff's offices to comply with federal immigration enforcement. Hamilton County Democratic Party Chair Josh Lowry rejects that support. He describes the event as a, quote, modern-day Klan rally. The rally's exact location has not been made public.
So, Niki, why do you think Fishers, Indiana was picked for this first of its kind rally?
I don't think it's clear. The group is, I think they said, like, we have a lot of people up in, like, north of the donut counties, but I don't think we really know. We don't know anything about it. And I'm not sure, I mean, they say it's the first mass deportation rally, but it's not public, so I don't even know what to call it. They won't even give us an idea on attendance. Yesterday, we were told they are giving exclusive rights for 2 media outlets to cover it, but they wouldn't tell us who. So it's just, I don't know, I guess we'll wait on Saturday and see what happens.
A lot of secrecy involved around this event, but not so much secret. The counter-protest that's going to be going on in Fishers.
Holland Park starts, and they
a lot of people.
To the municipal
sounds
building.
like.
I think my guess is, will be better attended, and at least we do know where it starts, where it ends, the times, and you can go and see it. To follow up on what Niki was saying, I mean, I haven't looked at a dictionary meaning of rally, but it kind of suggests that you're having some public event that is designed to gin up your supporters or encourage people to come to your side. But when people can't see you trying to preach your message, I mean, and they say it's sold out, but there's a conference room down the hall from near the studio that has, 8 or 10 seats in it. I could sell with my singing. Well, maybe I can't sell out at 10. Okay. My point being, I'm not saying it's a 10-seat conference room, maybe it's 20 seats, but I'm not putting a lot of stock in a sellout.
Right, or that will have much of an impact. Although we do have Republican leaders who will be at the event and others who will be giving video messages. The governor has said that he would not be attending or involved with this event. What does that speak to, though?
Almost all of them are saying no. It's even producing a video, including Jim Banks, who's no shrinking violet on immigration policy. Right? So I mean, that tells you something about this group. To the extent you know anything, I'll be interested to just see what the attendance, the message. My guess is it's going to be quite extreme, but I mean, I think it is telling that our mainstream elected officials are like, get me out of here, even the conservative ones.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it strikes people that it's really analogous to the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, it really is. You don't any longer say you're anti-black or you're anti-Jewish people, you're anti-Muslim. No. You're anti-immigrant, and you get all of those together. Love to Lieutenant Governor Beckwith means anybody that looks, thinks, and acts like him, he loves. Anybody who's different, he hates, and he's okay with that. He's okay with hate as a part of his, quote, Christian values. It's frightening, and I feel sorry for Fishers. I don't want them to be remembered the way Marion, Indiana was remembered for the last lynching. But there's some risk associated with having it there. So I hope the counter-protest dwarfs the protest or the, quote, rally that's sold out.
We'll be watching. Yes. 2 candidates running as Democrats for the same seat, the Indianapolis Public School Board, are facing opposition as they challengers to their eligibility. Caroline Beck reports questions have arisen following a law that allows partisan school board elections.
A 2025 law allows school board candidates to affiliate with political parties. Now, candidates Lindsay Cornett and Chris Boltman are both facing challenges because they filed to run as Democrats for the IPS District 4 seat. But the Marion County Election Board has run into some confusion. The challenges appear to be based on contradictory language found in a new state law and state election administration rules. Marion County Clerk Kate Sweeney Bell noted her frustration with the new law during a Monday morning meeting.
Thank you, General Assembly, because this seems clear as mud.
The county election board's next meeting to consider the challenges has not yet been set.
So, John, are other Indiana school districts going to run into this problem?
Oh, it's inevitable, I think, is the shakedown cruise, if you will, of this new law. These things are going to arise. Because of and what constitutes affiliation? Is it the last 2 primaries you voted in, or the 2 that were held, or the 2 that you voted in? I mean, that comes down to that distinction. And can a chair, bless you, and circumvent that process?
Well, line that standard up to the argument in front of the Recount Commission.
Right.
Well, there also, I went and looked, you only have to be under state statute 18 to run for school. Yeah, on election day you have to be 18. And I went and looked, and recently, just the last cycle, we had someone from Salem who was just turned 20. If you want to say that person were running as a party affiliation, he, and I believe it was a he, could not have done so because unless you got the blessing of the county party chair, because you haven't had a record.
That's a problem in every office.
But you can't have a, right. I mean, if you don't have a track, it really,
It's the primary. Yeah,
that's the primary.
Is that the problem with the rule here?
The law is poorly drafted. I mean, never mind the issue of whether we should have partisan elections. The law is very poorly drafted. You can just simply say, I'm a Democrat, okay? And in Hamilton County, everyone's going to say maybe not after the next election, but right now they're going to say they're Republicans, and in Marion they're going to say they're Democrats. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's Indiana Week in Review for this week. Our panel has been Democrat Ann DeLaney, Republican Mike O'Brien, John Schwantes, host of Indiana Lawmakers, and Niki Kelly, editor-in-chief at Indiana Capital Chronicle. You can find Indiana Week in Review's podcast and episodes at wfyi.org/IWIR or on the PBS app. I'm Jill Sheridan, managing editor at WFYI. Join us next time because a lot can happen in an Indiana week. The views expressed are solely those of the panelists.
Indiana Week in Review is produced by WFYI in association with Indiana Public Broadcasting Stations. Additional support is provided by Par Ritchie.